Tēnā tātou katoa, e te whānau, nau mai, hara mai, hoki mai ki tēnei kaupapa nui whakaharahara o tātou, ara ko Treaty-Based Futures and Anti-Racism 2026, e mihi ana ki a koutou katoa, me tēnei mutunga, o tēnei kaupapa he roa te wiki hoi no, hei whakatepe, mā koutou, ko ēnei o ngā Kaikōrerō, o ngā pūkenga mō Te Tiriti o Waitangi, hoi no tuatahi ake rā, mākawa no e timata ki te karaki e norera ki nui tātou. Kia tau ihoa no te tauwhurutanga te wāhi ngaro e pai ai te noho tahi a tinana wairua hoki, werohea te manawa ki ngā matāpono a kui mā koroma te pono, te tika, me te aroha kia whakamaua kia tīna, hau mie hui e, a tāi ki e. Hoi anō re te whānau, welcome to Treaty-Based Futures, welcome to the end of a wonderful kaupapa, and to the deep conversations that have been had over the past week, indeed throughout the weekend. E mihi ana ki a koutou katoa. Thank you for sharing all of your knowledges, all your insights, all your lived experiences, with the view that it can help us to move forward as we move alongside each other to what a treaty-based future might look like. Hoi anō e mihi ana ki tēnā o koutou katoa. Just some housekeeping whānau, just a reminder about the community code, and if we can all abide by this, please. A second reminder for our whānau, there's some of the bullet points there. I'm sure if you've been a part of our webinar, this is probably the 6th time you've read it, but just like when you're on a flight, you always have to watch the in-flight recording. So again, whānau, due diligence, let's go through those bullet points again. Also want to remind our whānau and how you can interact with our panel members by either using the chat. Indeed, if you want to tuku mai he pātai, you can use the Q&A on the Treaty-Based Futures platform, and those questions will be coming through straight to me, and I will ask them on your behalf. The accessibility info has just been on there, and also a mihi atu to all of our sponsors, Whāriki, Te Rauora, Tāmaki Treaty workers, Talking Trouble, everyone in there. I'm just going to chuck in a little plug for Auckland University of Technology as well, or AUT. Hoi anō e tātou mā e mihi ana ki a koutou katoa, I runga no I te whakaaro mā te huru karere te manu, with many feathers, this kaupapa will take flight. So thank you for your dedication and your commitment to our kaupapa in 2026, indeed, as we start moving forward into 2028. Hoi anō. E te whānau, we also have a moderator within our team here, and the moderator will be taking the questions and feeding them through to myself. So, e te whānau, you're not here to kaore te pirangi ki te whakarongo ki aku pahu. We have our panelists here. How we're going to operate, whānau, is that we are now at 3:36. We're going to go right up until 4:15. Our panelists are going to introduce themselves very briefly, but then we're going to give them a significant amount of time just to teach, just to share with you their story and their kaupapa, at which time, at around about 5:02, giving us about 20 minutes for Q&A, then we'll flick it back to myself, and then I'll ask your questions to our panelists. Hoi anō te whānau, ka tuku tuatahi te rākau kōrero ki a koe, Riki.
Tēnā tātou e te iwi tuatahi ake mini ki a koe te tuakana mō te tūwhera ai o tātou hononga I te rānei. Nō reira whakami ki a koe ka tika ki a tātou katoa. Ko te kukuna o tā o koutou hononga mai I tēnei rā, e mihi ka tika ki a tātou. Ko ai au, ko Riki Nia Nia tōku ingoa, Ngāti Kahungunu ki te Wairoa, nai Tūhoe me te kingitanga o Tonga e mihi ana ki a tātou katoa. Nō reira, tēnā tātou e te iwi. Hoa tū te wā ki a koe, Khylee.
Tēnā rā koutou katoa, ko Khylee Quince, tōku ingoa, hiuri o Ngāti Porou, me Ngāti Kahungunu hoki. So I'm Khylee Quince at AUT. Kia ora, thanks for coming. Kia koe, Val.
Me taku pāpā no Ngāpuhi, taku māma no Waikato, ko Valance Smith taku ingoa, kai hautu Te Tiriti mō AUT. Hoi no, kia ora te whānau, ka tuku te rākau kōrua no ki a koe, Riki, kia koe te wā.
Well, kia ora whānau, and first of all, big mihi to the whānau who organises this amazing symposium every year. It's particularly important at the moment because of the context that we're working in, not only the political context locally but internationally as well. So just a fantastic effort to bring us all together, and I just wanted to mihi to you and thank you for the opportunity to kōrero today. I will ask Ray to chuck up my very, very short presentation, just some thoughts that I thought I'd share just to kick us off, and just mihi also to Khylee. I'll leave all the technical stuff for Professor Khylee Quince, but I'll share a little bit of my whakaaro about what I think is important at the moment. Not really about Te Tiriti, more about our approach as a whānau, as a kaupapa whānau. Just, Ray, are you able to put those slides up there? Just while Ray is working in the background to share those slides, I was talking, the last time I talked with Matua Mason Jury, one of the things that he was sharing with me at the time, he's just finishing off, or his new book is about to be released, and said that one of the key features of his new books, one of the most positive things that has happened in the last 10 or 20 years has actually been the contribution of the kingitanga, and in particular Kingi Tūheitia. So this afternoon I just thought I'd build on some of those key messages that have come from Kingi Tūheitia. And since his passing, some of the kōrero from Te Ariki Nui Nā Waihonoi Te Po as well, and doing that with a view to looking to the future. So if I could just quickly go to the next slide. One of the things that Kingi Tūheitia has encouraged us all to do is to tākiri tū te kotahitanga. Will let us move forward in solidarity, move forward together as one unit, or to work together, collaborate. And I think regardless of our position on Te Tiriti, particularly when we are operating in such challenging contexts as the ones that we're facing globally at the moment, it's important that we put our energy in finding a way to move forward together. And the other reminder from Kingi Tūheitia was amohia ake te oro te iwi ka puta ki te whaiau. Which ultimately means, let the health and well-being, the overarching purpose for all of us, particularly those of us who have committed our lives to the oranga of our whānau, is let the health and well-being of our whānau, of our people, always be paramount. Move to the next slide, please. So just some guiding principles from me. I think it's really important for us whānau as we move forward in this context that we start transitioning from having a focus that has focused largely on the past and focused on the resolution of grievance. I'm not saying that that's not important anymore, but we move now to focus more on the future and what's in front of us, the opportunities and also the important and amazing potential that sit within our rangatahi, and looking at how we develop that into the future in a very challenging and complex world. So one of the calls to action from me this afternoon is most definitely that, yes, we continue to resolve the grievances that have been facing us as a people. And I'm talking about Te Ao Māori in particular, but there are other grievances across Aotearoa that need to be resolved also. But we also have eyes up on the future and the amazing opportunities that are in front of us, regardless of the oppression, colonisation and challenges that we have faced as a people as well. And so my first guiding principle that I would encourage us to think about, talk about, and discuss more of in the future is transitioning to having a focus on the future. The second thing is that we all talk about kotahitanga, we all talk about collaboration and working together, but now more than ever, we are required to work together and to find a way to set aside our differences, not to say that they're not important, not to say that they won't be a priority for us individually, but to find those things that are important to all of us and to focus on those things and invest our time and energy into those things as we move forward together in the areas that we consider priorities collectively. So prioritise kotahitanga would be my second guiding principle in terms of calls to action. Now, some immediate things that I think we need to focus on as well, whānau, and I know I'm speaking to the converted here, but We still need to focus on the general election. It is an opportunity, and it is an opportunity for us also to encourage our whānau and our communities to vote, and also to look at how we can support them to do that, how we strengthen the enablers to enable people to vote, because we know it's not the same for everybody. And so my first point in terms of action is we must vote. If we want to have a voice in how this country is going to be led in the future, we must vote. We must also take the opportunity to work together to reset political direction and strategy within our country. And that's something that we should all be continuing to work on. I'm not saying we aren't working on that, but there's a huge opportunity for us to work together to work out, what is the Aotearoa New Zealand that we aspire for, and how do we influence the selection process as we move forward in relation to the outcome of the upcoming election. And so those would be, I'm not sure, can you put the slides back up just quickly, sorry? That would be another thing that I would encourage us to do. And in doing that, thinking about how we might influence policy and what policy we might encourage new governments to pick up in the future, and finally harnessing the power of AI. And I won't get into that because I know we've only got a short amount of time, but it's important that we have that conversation moving forward as well. And finally, just on my last slide, if you're wondering about what are the key priority areas that we might have some of those conversations in, Queenie Ngāwai o Te Ariki Nui, Queenie Ngāwai Hono o Te Po, she provided some really clear direction and a framework for us at her first koro nei hana e tūranga waiwai marae I te rātau, when she said, tino rangatira-tanga tō reo, mana motu hakitia te taio, tino rangatira-tanga tō haura, mana motu hakitia tō pāhara keke. And so from my perspective, those four key areas give us some potential collective focus areas that as champions for Te Tiriti o Waitangi, for champions for the oranga health and well-being of our people, that we could focus on and also lean our collective approach into as we endeavour to influence what politicians might prioritise when they're campaigning to win their next election, and also in our efforts to try and shape the direction of the future election and the future of this country as we move forward together. So anyway, Valance, those are just a few ideas and thoughts I wanted to share. I wanted to align them back to kingitanga, mainly based on my conversation with Matua Mason, but also I agree with him that a lot of positive direction has come out of our whānau that are sitting within the kingitanga, including our reigning Queen Te Ariki Nui, Queenie Ngāwai Hono o Te Po. Ko reira te whānau, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou.
Tēnā koe taku rangatira hoi no kua hoatu te rākau kōrero ki a koe, Khylee.
Kia ora anō. Kia ora, Riki, that was awesome. I thought I'd just spend maybe 2 minutes or so describing my work at the moment and then draw upon some. I've been watching some of the presentations from over the week, which have been absolute gold, from our rangatahi activists right through to our marae kura and, tā iri, some amazing thought leaders, courageous people, and our allies, tangata tiriti. So I thought I'd draw together some themes. But in my little corner of part of our law degree, and that has been not just the curriculum, but also our pedagogies and our ways of teaching, assessing. And this is, no matter what your discipline, it's essentially the same kaupapa. It's an attempt to be critical and to educate, to liberate with a social justice lens. It's not been without its challenges, and the impetus for doing this work over the last few years has been a long time coming, and it's much of the kōrero that we've heard this week from some speakers in this conference, including Annette Sykes, our tuakana in the law, and also Tāere Jury, our most senior jurisprud. So it's included the work of lawyers, judges developing tiriti jurisprudence over 4 decades, the maturing of some of our people to very senior positions of power and authority on the bench as judges, senior counsel, politicians in Parliament, and the Law Commission, just to name a couple. It's also about the conscientising of tangata tiriti as students, as colleagues. And that also poses a particular challenge as we attempt to talk across cultures, across languages, across ways of knowing and being, and that is part of the decolonising work. And as Riki's already spoken, the kotahitanga challenge to, to be united in our purpose. I'd just like to say that I appreciated one of Annette's whakaaro, which is to talk about kotahitanga amongst iwi Māori too. So that's not just about working with tangata tiriti, but of course working across iwi Māori. And she made a particular plug or a call for us not to engage in, in that practice of kaitangata of putting ourselves down, and that's a classic strategy of divide and rule. So just a shout out to my tuakana Annette there. Talk a little bit about the call to action. So I thought in terms of the Poroporoaki that a call to action is of course a verb. So I thought that the sessions that I looked at, I came up with a couple of verbs that I thought summarise some of the themes across the presentations that I saw. And these are what I saw as the sort of whenuraranga, if you like, to draw together the different whakaaro that I heard. And those verbs are remembering, dreaming, moving to doing, sharing, and enduring. So there was a common theme of remembering, and of course Riki's mentioned this in terms of looking backwards, and a couple of people mentioned the whakaaro of Tā Tipene O'Regan in terms of remember to remember, and Annette also posed a wero in that respect in terms of asking us to remember who we are and where we came from, but to remember also our who fought for us, who made space for us, particularly in this kaupapa of Te Tiriti and anti-racism. So including Eva, Sid, Wana, Hana, Mira, and of course our more recent activists too. So remembering to remember. Dreaming, I thought, was the second theme. So of course that's also, Riki's also tapped into that. So it's not just looking backwards, but of course thinking aspirationally. And I particularly loved the framing of this by Reikura Kahi, who was talking about her nanny and about the education that she and her brother and others had at Whāniwatiti at their kura, and the way that she framed that as constellating pathways, seeding pathways for young people, for tamariki, for mokopuna. So dreaming about a better future for them than their parents and grandparents may have had. Third theme that resonated with me was the theme of working from moving to doing. And again, Annette, unsurprisingly, very strong on that idea. That the three things we need to do, of course, is to talk, to plan, and then implement. But you have to do all three of those things. So, of course, the first thing, talking, is you have to have a mandate. So she talked, of course, about going back to her people, Te Arawa Mātātua Waka, and that rohe, because there's no point, you can't lead people if you don't know what it is that they want. And other than the talking, you can't jump over the planning, because otherwise you will be going round and round and doing things without a clear goal in mind. So the importance of strategizing. So moving from talking to planning to strategizing. The other two people I thought that were particularly clear on that kaupapa were our young people, the activists. Eru and Cassie were amazing. Eru joined us in his car. He was sitting in his waka. There were people walking past the back windscreen. And what that said to me is that he's a busy young fella. He's got places to go, things to do, but he made time for this kaupapa. So he's literally an activist because he's moving in his waka, thinking about what he's got to do next. sharing was the next theme I saw across the presentations that I saw. Again, Cassie talked to this, and it talked about sharing amongst our own people, gathering information, dreams, aspirations from our own people from the ground up. But Cassie also talked about the idea of sharing globally with our Indigenous whanaunga. So she talked about sharing with our relations in Te Whenua Moemoeā, with our Aboriginal relations, particularly following the voice referendum and in the lead up to the Treaty Principles Bill here in Aotearoa. So learning from other Indigenous peoples globally. She also talked about that in relation to the Toitū Te Tiriti and together Te Tiriti kaupapa. The next theme I thought, and again, numerous people referenced, the idea of being a toka tūmoana, so being that rock in the ocean. So while there is change, we also need to be enduring, that there is an immovable rock that speaks to longevity, solidarity, that there are some anchors to these movements, even though there are aspects of change that come with different generations and different ways of doing things, perhaps. So enduring, I thought, was the next theme in terms of how we move forward. And the last thing underpinning all of those themes of remembering, dreaming, moving, sharing, and enduring is, of course, this all being underpinned by the ongoing relevance of Te Tiriti, he whakaputanga, tikanga me te reo Māori, the affirmation of our authority, the blueprint for a shared vision of peaceful coexistence. There were many, many people that spoke to the concept of hōhau te rongo, and this idea of inclusive planning for our future, but inclusivity not being at the cost of our status as tangata whenua. And I also, there was another theme I picked up on this morning, is this idea of and, that what's good for Māori is also good for others. Professor Claire Charters spoke to that in terms of, affirmation of Indigenous rights is a win for human rights. It also speaks to the human rights of other people, not just Māori. So I thought this was a gold conference, e te whānau, amazing speakers from people with incredible longevity in the movement, and then those young people who bring their own energy and expertise and ways of connecting that we can all learn from. So I think I'll leave it there, Val, and we'll take some patai if anyone has any. Kia ora.
Tēnā koe, Khylee. I really love how you've actually outlined, I suppose, a synopsis and a summary of the past 4 or 5 days. Really, especially around the, what strikes me as the remember to remember. We can be so caught up in our day-to-day lives and activities, while with great intent, that we actually forget to remember. So, e mihi ana ki tēnā, because understanding that is te kōrero nā rātua no I paratuhuarahi, those of our whānau who have paved the way for ourselves to move forward, i.e. We stand upon the shoulders of giants. So that's just a mihi to our tipuna. But also, that dreaming part and moving forward, especially that talk, plan, and implement. We can be really guilty of, I don't like the term myself, but in some contexts it is true. All hui no dui. It's really in the doing. But the hui part is a huge part of that, understanding what you said earlier on, which is we need to understand exactly and clearly and comprehensively what is it that our whānau want, what are our aspirations, so we know exactly what that North Star might look like. While we live in the Southern Hemisphere, the North Star is useful in that it provides an orientation of whether we're moving left, right, backwards or forwards, and that's where the inclusivity of ensuring that we have our toka tūmoana, our whānau, our kuia kaumātua, and indeed our eru of the of our world, our rangatahi, to inform what that might look like. So mihi ana kia koe te whanaunga. Kia koe nea Ngāti Mahu te kia koe Riki, e mihi nei. You know, tēnā kōrero tāhua nā te kuini ngā waihono I te po. I love that kōrero for ngā waihono I te po, and I think that it encapsulates essentially what the ethos and principle and what the dream and the hope was when Te Tiriti was signed way back in 1840. Tino rangatiratanga tia te reo, that we may hold fast to te reo. You know, my background as a reo teacher, I would often get whānau coming into class apologising for not knowing their pepeha. And we just have to remind them that it's not your fault, that these things were systematically taken away from us, but it is our responsibility to do something about that. Mana motu hake tia te taiao. Well, there's that kōrero. Ki te ora te taiao ka ora te tangata. If our taiao, if our environment is healthy, then people are healthy, and vice versa. And that goes to the synonymous relationship that we have with our natural environment, whenua, rangi, and so on. Tino rangatira tia te hauora, you know, that kōrero e Khylee, we say, oh, we'll die for our kids. No matter what, we'll die for our kids. But here's the pātai whānau, will you live for them? You know, will you live for them? Health-wise, whānau connections, emotionally, and so on. All the domains of the whare tapawhā, to ensure that our pā harakeke can flourish and can thrive. And so whānau, e mihi ana kia kōrua. We have some time now, whānau, for some questions. So please chuck them up on the Q&A. And Annie will feed those through to me momentarily. But I'm going to just ask a question, just a simple question, Khylee, just to you first and foremost, and then across to you, Riki. What are you currently working on within the Tiriti context?
Yeah, so rolling out, so as you know, Val, with our Te Aronui strategy, so our institutional strategy at AUT, our honouring of the treaty, it's the implementation time for that. So working through that, rolling out some new courses. And one of the things that I've taken to heart as a teacher is people are often focused on content as opposed to pedagogy, and not in a fancy way, just in a, you know, how we do things, where we do them. And so that's been a new challenge in terms of assisting colleagues to think about, you know, doing things differently, co-teaching, sharing space with each other, going outside to do things, you know, being a bit more hands-on, which suits tutu Māori sort of learners. So working on that, and another starting another big project on justice gaps for Māori and that.
Yeah, tēnā koe, that whole idea around content versus pedagogy, right? That's also the dichotomy between performative and transformative. If you were to take the content from the course or the curriculum, would it fall over? If not, then it's performative. If you take the pedagogy out, will it fall over? If it does, then it's transformative. So it's keep up that good work, e hoa. Kia koe, Riki?
Yeah, a couple of things. Today I'm in North Tautahi in Te Waka Māori. At the Oraka Araro National Alcohol and Other Drugs Conference. And the purpose of, you know, Te Rawara is to bring together different workforces, particularly those working in mental health. And today we're bringing together the Māori addictions workforce from across the country. So big mihi to the 200 people who registered and the other 300 people who turned up as well to, you know, tautoko that important kaupapa. This morning we heard from Hano Regan, who was amazing. And again, you know, reinforce the importance of looking to the future of kotahitanga, working together. And also, but still looking, you know, to our history and the solutions and the platforms that have already been created for us to build upon. The other kaupapa that we've been working on is kotahitanga, you know, looking at, talking in particular with our tribal leaders in the US about how they've achieved kotahitanga over the past 80 years and some of the frameworks that they've put in place for their over 500 tribes to work together at a national level to influence policy, to influence decisions, to create the policy enablers that will help, their individual iwi or tribes to flourish within their different takiwa or reservations. So we've been gathering that information and looking to share that more widely with our tribal leaders here, because at the end of the day, our view or my view is that we get further faster together, working towards the aspirations that we collectively have for the health and well-being of our people.
I mean, that really speaks to the kōrero of Te Kuini Māori and Ngā Waihonoi Te Po. So it's your mahi is actually that, a living testament to what you're doing is a direct relationship, indirect relationship to that kōrero. So e mihi ana ki tēnā. So we do have a question, whānau. We're all on the spectrum, all been a part of a te reo journey, and we're all at different points of the journey. And knowing what we know now, what would you say to your younger selves?
Well, I'll go here and make a I don't have the reo, and so what I would say to my younger self is to go for it. And brought up in that time, post too old for kura, a sustained period of reo learning as a young adult and adult. And yeah, that kind of trauma, real trauma is real. So that's what I would say to myself is get over myself and make yourself vulnerable. We ask young people to be vulnerable, and it's much harder to be vulnerable as an adult learner, no matter what the learning context is. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah, great pātai, great pātai. Firstly, I would say that English is a really important language. It's a tool that we can use to advance the aspirations that we have globally with other races, ethnicities across the world. However, the way that we were exposed or it was imposed upon us has created serious and significant harm on our people. So therefore, te reo is actually an important part of our healing and also oranga. So without te reo, it's very hard, in my view, this is just my humble view, for us to achieve the aspirations that we have for our oranga collectively. So for me, te reo is more than just the language. It's also an important part of our healing. And yeah, we're all on that journey, and big tautoko to all those who are beginning the journey, who are on the journey, and of course our mātanga reo hurirona te motu. Tēnā tātou.
Ka pai korua, the kōrero goes, a problem well defined is half solved. So we now know what we have to move to do to start moving forward. But also understand that, we talk about kotahitanga, and kotahitanga doesn't necessarily mean we're all on the same page. Kotahitanga doesn't mean that we all share the same vision or the same worldview. Indeed, we don't all have the same set of skills, but kotahitanga is about understanding where we can contribute, what our value is to the movement moving forward. And so, you have a skill set, Riki. Kylie, you have a skill set. Others have a skill set. So yes, it is about individual and personal leadership, but it's also about what does that collective vision look like, understanding that we all bring something to the kete and for the waka to start moving forward. Could our speakers recommend one resource or book to read that would illuminate understandings of strategies that would enhance a Tiriti-led future in Aotearoa?
Well, you guys might not know this, but my rangatira is a publisher. She works at Huia. And Yeah, exciting news, whānau. Matua Mason's new book, Whiti Ora, is about to hit the streets. So that's the one I would encourage. And I am a little bit biased here because Matua has been one of my mentors for a long time. And, he's made a significant difference for a lot of us who have been working in the hauora sector. But most definitely that is, that new publication that Matua is about to share with the ao is one that I would encourage everyone to get a copy of. Tēnā tātou.
Kia ora. The one that immediately comes to mind for me is that very small but incredibly articulate and powerful little book, Imagining Decolonisation, one of the small Bridget Williams books. Readers, clear, accessible, a really fantastic read.
And of course, books are one thing, but of course, online platforms like Treaty-Based Futures and Anti-Racism 2026, another plug for our hui. In 2 years' time, you've come back to our hui because actually, how you both outlined some of the kōrero over the past 4 days actually deepens our understandings and challenges our own perspectives of what we think should be a treaty-led Aotearoa. E te whānau, if you've got any more questions, please fire. What about you, Valance? I also want to talk about one of my heroes, as opposed to a book. And one of my heroes is Ollie Olsen. Ollie Olsen from the 80s. And the reason why I say that is I grew up in South Auckland in Māngere in the 70s, and I'd often see sprawled across corrugated iron fences, Māori dimmers boredom. And so if you can imagine what kind of influence that had on a 7-year-old, I would always turn on the TV and I'd see a Māori there playing his guitar and speaking te reo. So that's just a reminder for me to remember some of those little things, and don't take these little things for granted. And some of these are people that have influenced our lives that make us the people that we are today. Our mums, our dads, our aunties, our uncles, our kui, our kaumātua, and more importantly, our tamariki. I have a 2.5-year-old, and I just have to remind myself that, she's running, she's jumping, she's also falling, and she's stumbling, and that's just life. And so those important things, whānau, and that's what I think is really the call to action in terms of tino rangatira au tō hauora, tō whānau, o tamariki mokopuna katoa. I think it starts there.
Coming back to your whakaaro about skill sets, Val, one of the things that again resonated across a number of the different sessions this week was two things. It was about knowing what your skill set is and knowing what your role is in this kaupapa of challenging racism, decolonising, and perhaps moving to indigenising and this Hawaii ki hau. I particularly liked the way that so Annette talked about harmonisation of role, figuring out what your contribution can be, and that speaks to your harmonisation means that there are different roles, which is what you've just alluded to, that everyone will have different parts in that different contributions. The other thing I really liked was something Reikura mentioned, which is often people will be doing the thing without saying they're doing the thing. She didn't put it like that. That's my take on what she said. But what she said was, my nanny didn't talk about the treaty, and she didn't talk about revitalisation of the reo. They just did it. So you can be living this kaupapa and doing it. You don't need to you don't need to call it that. You don't need to say it out loud. You don't need to wave a flag. And again, I think that also resonates with Kingi Tūheitia's challenge about being Māori every day, just living Māori, that your existence is resistance. And that is, that's really important. And it can be really small, everyday things. Like you say, being a good parent, being a good grandparent, being a contributor to your community, that's harmonisation of role, as long as we're all sort of heading generally the same direction.
Yeah, being a good ancestor and being a good mokopuna. And the harmony part, I love to steal everyone's notes. So to ensure, whānau, that you stick on your note and stay in your lane, because that's the only way harmonisation is going to work. I'm going to actually just throw one last question to the both of you. We're now heading into the last part of our session. And it goes back to your kōrero, actually both your kōrero, about moving forward. That we need to remember where we've come from with a focus on our future direction, our desired future state. So looking ahead, what is one thing we must get right for our people, our communities, our whānau?
Well, from my perspective, Valance, and I said it right at the beginning, ko tanga. We put far too much energy into focusing on the things we disagree on. And in my view, we need to find the things that we agree on and not disregard the things we disagree on, but just put our energy into working on the things we all agree on. And there are several, and Ngā Waitangi Te Porou has provided potentially 4 key areas that we could focus on together. From my perspective, when we're talking about, tino rangatira tō reo, it's not just the reo as a language, but also our voice. She also talks about the taiao, our hauora, and our pāharakike or our whānau. And so from my perspective, finding a way to work together effectively, collaborate, putting our energy into working together, collaboration, called tahitanga on the things that are important to us, the priorities that are important to us, that is what I think is most important moving forward. Tēnā tātou.
I think probably speaking to the fact I'm a teacher, and that's share what you know, because what you know is partly backwards looking in terms of what you learnt, but I think sharing what you know with others for the future. I mean, I had a little interaction in class yesterday that shocked me, but I thought, okay, that's fixable. That's what we're here for. And I asked a group of first-year students, I thought the most obvious, easy question: when was the treaty signed? And one young woman put her hand up and said 1977. And I couldn't believe that, she's a school leaver. She's just been to school. And I thought, I masked my shock quite well. And I thought, oh yeah, no, we can fix that. And so I hope she remembered that it wasn't 1977. So yeah, share what you know for the benefit of others, because I particularly like in our rules for the the kaupapa for the conference, that idea that no one knows everything, but together we know a lot. So share what you know.
And I think that actually goes back to yes, treaty led, but also whanaungatanga led. We need to foster, nurture, and build good relationships with people who have good intent, and often people are afraid of what they should be doing, and that requires a degree of aroha, but also firmness, because education at the end of the day, this kaupapa, treaty-based futures, is about sharing, like you said, Khylee, sharing knowledges, sharing lived experiences, educating all of our whānau within treaty-based futures, but also how does this, if this is a classroom, how does this ripple across to our own communities outside of this kaupapa? And that's really the implementation part. So I encourage everyone to be a part of our kaupapa as we start to share, talk, plan, implement, do the do, whānau, do the do. And that's how we're going to make real change. Because I'd like to think that when we gather together again in 2 years, that we will see a slight shift in the narrative, in the wairua. And the wonderful thing about this conference is that it does give us a chance to reflect, because a lot can be achieved in 2 years, and we need to ensure that we have that space to be able to do that. So I want to mihi to all the organisers of this kaupapa. Heather, koe no koutou ko tō tīma ki te whakarite i tēnei kaupapa. Kia ora. Hoi no i te whānau, kua tapahi i te whākarake nai nei. We've now reached the conclusion of our hui. So from your own desktops or wherever you might be, can you give a big shout out and a big huro and a big thank you? Homai he paki kia Riki, Rawa, kia Khylee, And on behalf of myself and indeed the organisers, kua rahi, kua rangatira, kua mōhio ake, tēnei huihuinga I a kōrua. You have only added beauty and depth and richness to the discussion thus far, and there's no wonder that the organisers chose our wonderful two speakers, Riki and Khylee, hei whakatepe to conclude our kaupapa today. Hoi no, e mihi ana kia kōrua, hoi no kia tātou katoa. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. I'd like to also thank our volunteers. Now I've got people like Josh, Johnny, Ray, Annie here on my screen here. But we know there's around 35 organizations and a lot of partners and a lot of volunteers who are keeping this kaupapa moving forward and actually playing in the waka. It's easy to get into a waka, but it's hard to ensure that we're all going at the same pace and going in the same direction. We've arrived, whānau, so we must have been doing something right. So e mihi ana kia koutou katoa, ngā kai riwhi, ngā kai tautoko, ngā kai hāpai. Thank you to all the volunteers and the partners who have helped bring this event to life. Again, 35 organisations. Ka mau te wihi, homa he paki kia koutou katoa. And also to the partner associated events, all the partners that have tautoko, that have given tautoko to this kaupapa outside of this digital platform, e mihi ana kia koutou katoa. The recordings whānau will be uploaded to YouTube. These can be, and these will be shared widely. So again, ahakoa kua tepe te kaupapa ia e tonu nei, although we've come to the conclusion of our hui, it's through the digital platforms like YouTube where we can start to continue the kōrero, continue the wānanga, have a robust discussion for ourselves to reach the desired state of health and well-being in kotahitanga. Ahoi no whānau, kātira ki kona. Nei rā Ngāti Mahuta, te parawhau, te ururoroi, te mahuruhuri ki whatatiri ko Ngāti Maru, ko Valance Smith, me aku tamariki, takuhua, e mihi nei kia koutou katoa, mai te wānanga aronui o Tāmaki Makaurau, kia koutou katoa, aha kua kowai, aha kua nohia, tēnā koutou, kia karakia tātou. Uhia mai ko te wairua tapu hei pueru mō mātou te iwi me te arohau te runga rawa. Noa nei ki te whenua tō mairangi noa ki ngā tāngata katoa, whakaunuku wake te aio, ki runga ki tēnā ki tēnā mātou, hei āwhina, hei tohu mātou, tūturu whakamaua kia tēnā. Haum ye hui e tāi ki e. Concluding the session now, thank you whānau. I'm going to hand it over to Stephen.
Kia ora. Thank you very much, Valance. Gathered here on the table here are many of the core group people that have brought you the last 6 days, and we wanted to end our hui with a chance to just bring things to a close. Going to hand out rāku to Alex, and yeah, over to you, Alex.
Tēnā tātou, o tira Valance. Tēnā koe, Khylee, Riki, tērā wāhanga whakamutunga, o tēnei kaupapa whakahirahira e mihi kawana. Ai. I kōrero, me pēnei te kōrero. He ahuru, he toka ahuru tēnei. He toka ahuru, ara, ko te toka tūmoana tērā, he kaupapa whakawhirinaki i ngā iwi ahakua kowai, ahakua nowhea. Nā reira, tēnā tātou, what a beautiful, beautiful event. We're near the end. Yo, it's real. And it's so important that we have these kind of events to draw us in. So just one highlight from me is the amount of energy and generosity that's been generated, as Valance said, from the back to the front, to the front to the back. Because if that's out of coordination, we're going to be a bit like that. So yeah, it's been wonderful. And now I'd like to pass it over to the dame. Oh no, she's not quite a dame. Heather came.
Barnsey. Kia ora tātou. It's always magical to be at Treaty-Based Futures. It's ridiculous where the simple idea that we had in the beginning has developed to. So special shout out to the founders, to the core group, to the 65 partner organisations that are standing with us today, to the chairs, to the speakers, to the crones, to the backroom people, to the volunteers. This is a village effort. This is a not-for-profit. This is about conscientization and giving people access to ideas and creative folk that you might not have run into. Yeah, so my favorites, there's lots of favorites, but I just love the creative folk and how much of themselves they shared of their journey and how inspirational they were and so embodied in the kaupapa. And, you know, there's lots of other people to love. I mean, who doesn't love an Annette Sykes Te Ahika rant that goes non-stop for an hour and a half? That is extraordinary. Who has got that stamina and that intellect? You know, but the gentleness of some of the other characters, fabulous to be here. Looking forward to getting people's suggestions for Treaty-Based Futures 2028, because indeed we have a rest year, Valance. We have a rest year where we work on all the other kaupapa and then we come back refreshed and ready to go. And a special shout out to our American friend at the back, Ray, Epic, and Steve. Whoa, won't you sleep well tonight, brother? Handing it over to the next person. Is it Kate Matheson, all the way from windy Mangawhai?
Oh, kia ora koutou. Small, share a small highlight. So many in the webinars and kōrero that I couldn't pick one, but I've been on the social media and just loving all the like direct messages and sharing and stories of people's watch parties. So thank you for all the community that built the excitement and got everyone here. And I'll pass to Tony.
Kia ora, just really quickly, I just want to thank the audience in particular for all the sessions. You brought your wairua and your mana and your spirit and your contributions, and they're deeply appreciated. It's a community effort that we are constructing together. It's not simply one or two people, so we really appreciate the audience. The other thing I wanted to thank is the speakers just for their sheer generosity. Generosity is one of the hallmarks in activism of, this is something one of my friends, Zane Wedding, said. He's a co-organizer with our organizing core team, is that leadership is characterized by generosity. And I wanted to say that all the speakers from all the sessions characterize that, even if they're not strictly activists, but they're characterized by the generosity or spirit of what they give unselfishly. So that is something I was very moved by in the session, but I'll say no more because others should speak that have done more important work than I am. My friend Zane Wedding can't be here, but he was co-organizer and did very significant work, especially with the Māori, some of the Māori connections that we were doing. So I want to honour him, even though he's not here today. So Manuia, I'll pass on to the next co-organizer.
Oh, kia ora. I'll just jump in there. When we started out with it, there was about 9 or 10 people put their hand up to support the back end. Amazing. We've formed as a really great group, sort of people who were supporting each other and to bring this to you. And our whole aim was to ensure that the speakers felt comfortable and supported in doing their part of this in the chairs. So I'm hoping that we've achieved that and that they've enabled people to share their ideas and get them out there. So, and without Ray and Josh from Good Flicks, awesome. Thank you very much for your support. And yeah, so, and as we speak, there's a team that have picked up the rākau to do the recordings, and we're going to put those out over time in the public domain. You can watch things within Zoom for the next month, but they'll be shareable publicly. So there's a group already looking at that and really paying a close attention to the quality of the translations and with the transcriptions and stuff like that. So again, we're honouring the work that people so generously shared. And just on behalf of Kyle, who's not here, he pulled together a great team of moderators who also held that space. They did a lot of preparation beforehand and made sure that it was, they were there on hand and to support the chair. So take the things you've learned and the connection you made, and yeah, we can raise Mary Hell together. Passing over the rākau to Johnny.
Kia ora koutou. Yeah, big acknowledgement to our team of hosts, Adam, Carolyn, Chloe, Fiona, Philippa, Storm, Stu, Stephen. Like, you've all been amazing. Yeah, it's been thank you for your mahi. It's been a pleasure seeing you all on a weekly basis. To the Good Clicks crew, Ray and Josh, like, these two have carried the kaupapa technically, beaming the event to your lounge, everyone. We couldn't have done it without them. So yeah, big mihi to these two. To our speakers, thank you for bringing yourselves and for bringing your mataranga. It's so generous. It's a taonga, and it's there for us all, not just through the event, but as a resource that we can all tap into going forward. So yeah, big acknowledgement to our speakers. And yeah, he mihi ana kia koutou e ngā manihiri. Most of you are already working in this space. Keep up the good mahi. Thank you for being a part of this event. Yeah, tēnā koutou katoa. I'm going to pass the rako back to Valance to wrap up.
Kia ora, Valance, before you do, can I just jump in and say, like, if there's a moment, it's now. Heather came, you work absolutely tirelessly. The number of hours and things that you do in the background that nobody knows about, the delicate things, the tough things, the just absolute slog that you do all the time. Want to acknowledge that you're a force. Over to you, Valance.
Tautoko. Heather came, Heather saw, Heather conquered. E mihi ana ki a koe, Heather. A hoi no mākawa no e whakatepe ki tēnei huhui ngō tātou. Kia karakia tātou. Ka tākene te kaua, ko te kaua nui, ko te kaua roa, ko te kaua whakatika, ko te kahui wai no tiki o te rangi. I te iwa ko te pū, ko te weo, ko te rito, ko te take, ko te pūkinga, ko te wānanga, ko te taura, ko te tauira. Tēnei rā te awhinuku, te awhirangi no te ori matu pui, te take uenu ki ueraki. Tēnei koha hau ki runga ki te tipua, ki runga ki te tawhito, ki runga ki te kahua ngātua, kia puta tēnei kaupapa, treaty-based futures and anti-racism, i te whaiao ki te amarama, ngā kaimahi, ngā ringa rehe, ngā ringa whawhati kō, ki te whaiao ki te amarama, ngā kaimātake kai whakarongo tamariki mokopuna kuia kaumātua katoa ahakua ko wai nohia. I te whaiao ki te amarama, whano, haramai te toki, haumi e, hui e, taiki e. Kia ora tātou katoa. Mihi ora.